Hello everyone, welcome to today's remote working video. My name is Lawrence, I'm the head of marketing at MangoMap, and today I'm going to be talking about 4 essential tips for managers, project managers, GIS managers in terms of remote working. Now, we've been remote for the last couple of years. We understand that the transition could be quite hard, so I just wanted to make this video today to really provide the 4 most important things that we've learned that you can implement quite quickly. So let's get straight into this. Now, I just want to start by outlining the top challenges that perhaps you're facing, certainly that we faced. Number 1 is ensuring collaboration and teamwork. Now, if you're in an office environment and you're used to working very closely with your team, it's very easy to have daily meetings to track workflows and collaboration because you're all there. In fact, you don't really have to track it as much because you can just talk. Now, there are some problems with that, which I'll go into later. But so number 2 is tracking tasks and workflows. Again, if you're together, it's very, very simple to do that. You just talk to each other. It's not the most productive way, but at least people are there and it's long established. So number 3 in the top challenges is fighting the urge to hold meetings in a remote setting. If you're used to having constant collaboration, constant meetings and chatter within the office environment, and if you need something, you just call to someone over the other side of the office, or to hold lots of meetings because you're all there and can do that. When you go remote, you really have to fight that urge to continue that practice. It's not viable. People have to, load software and they have to make time in their day, and it can interrupt workflows. In terms of a remote work setup, there are a lot of advantages, and you do lose some of those advantages if you're constantly holding meetings and still clinging on to that old paradigm of where you're all in the same office together. So tied to that is you've got to sort of let go and give trust to your team. Now, if you feel that you can't trust your team or that you're worried that they're not going to be doing their work, that isn't really a remote problem. That's more of a HR problem. This, in terms of remote working, if you are finding that, then it's actually beneficial because you can actually address that. If in the office a team member could get away with not doing as much or watching YouTube videos or working on their side hustle, you'll quickly find that out in remote working, and I'll go into that later in more depth. So I just wanted to give you the key takeaway in terms of challenges is remote management moves away from that office paradigm where you're interrupting and you're shepherding others. You make sure they come in at 9, they leave at 5 or 6, lunch is taken at 12, and you can see someone there doing their work, and it's more of a task of enabling collaboration within that remote framework. So now I've established the challenges, let's go on to the 4 top tips of what we've learned that I want to pass on to you. So number 1 is the most fundamental thing that you can do is you need to centralize planning and project management with a cloud-based system. Now, in terms of workflows, you can do that if it's for a marketing team, you can do that with things like Trello. For a software team, you can use Jira, which is what it's designed for. It really is important to have a place where everyone can type in what work they're doing, break that down into tasks, and then it be constantly up to date. And that's the centralized place where everyone manages their workflows. And as from a project manager or a GIS manager, you can just log in, check what everyone's doing, so you don't have to interrupt them constantly. It's really irritating to some people if you're working hard on a problem and you're in a good flow and people keep interrupting you all the time. It's actually not very good for productivity. Now, in order to implement that infrastructure, that's quite easy to do because you can just go and buy the tools. And as long as the manager really buys into it and makes everyone put all their work into that system, then everyone can see what everyone else is doing, and it's a godsend from the project manager's perspective because you can just log in, see where everyone is in their swim lane, what task they're working on, and then you can see the output at the end of that, and you can see how long it took, So you don't have to constantly be calling people, messaging, etc. So in order for that to work, you really need to establish a culture of reasonable expectations at the beginning, and ideally attach a metric to that, and then just leave your team to it. Now, establishing that culture of reasonable expectations is it's fundamental that you do that early. So you talk to your team members and you say, this is the workflows that we expect. We expect 40 hours a week, etc., or 35 to 40 hours. We expect, if it's a marketing example, if it's a writer, we expect a social media post every day. So you're basically just providing parameters and then letting them go and do it. So that element of trust is huge. And if you attach a metric to that from a management perspective, you don't have to be constantly checking in. You just check the metric once a week, once a day, once a month, whatever feels right to you. So yeah, number 3 is sort of tied to that. It's fighting the urge to constantly check in. It does not boost productivity. Like I said, it's more of an interruption most of the time. And you can also judge people by their output. It becomes the sole metric, actually, because in an office environment, if someone's quite loud and they arrive on time and they're always at their desk, you can sort of make the mistake of thinking that's actually productive. Whereas when you actually start judging them by the output, you might see that they're not as productive as they put across. Whereas maybe some of your quieter team members who just sit there and just get through a lot of work and are actually highly productive, you'll actually see the quality of their work, because it's almost like a level playing field. So it's a huge advantage actually to remote working. You can actually see how productive people are. You can enable productivity, and you can measure based on quality of output, not on quality of personality. How are they around the office? Do they turn up on time, etc., which are essentially, in terms of productivity, they're essentially pointless metrics in our view. And number 4, this may be counterintuitive to some of you, but the most important thing that you actually need to look for is overwork. If there isn't a separation between work and home life, it can actually get very tempting to say, oh, okay, I'm going to get ahead on tomorrow's work today. So you might end up working longer. You might, if your workstation is in your home or it's in your bedroom, then it's quite tempting to jump on and just check some emails or check some messages. So once you've implemented all the centralized planning, the cloud-based tools, Mango is one of those. We designed it to be that in terms of a project management tool that's easily accessible online. Once you've implemented all that, you really need to watch for signs of overwork. And when you do check in with people, if you're going to cut back, like we advise, on the number of meetings and check-ins, and you actually rely on a cloud-based system, then your check-ins will be much higher quality, because you'll be actually just checking how is the person doing, what blockages do they have, is there anything that I can do as a manager to help them. So it actually fosters more team spirit in our experience. So the key takeaway from that is team members should be judged on the quality of their output. And if you can easily track their output, you can, if someone's falling below par, you can have a chat with them and see how you can fix it. And then if someone's overachieving, then you can actually reward that and find out what they're doing that you can spread to the other team. Again, it levels the playing field in terms of personality and output. So top 3 essential tools from a very, very basic perspective: Trello, Slack, and a cloud storage system like Google Drive provides you with everything that you need to implement a remote workflow today. You put all of your workflows on Trello, all of your tasks. It's got swim lanes and little sections, doing, to do, done. You can check on that every day as long as everyone buys in. Slack is your communication channel, which you can do screen shares with. You can do calls, do group calls. You can do chats between different teams. And then cloud storage just means that everything that is an output can be easily accessed from anywhere. So you can see how easy it is to go from that office environment to a remote workflow just by making everything cloud-based. And then on top of that, you just add in your industry-specific tooling, ideally cloud-based versions like Mango. So how does this, you might be thinking, how does this actually work in terms of a Mango workflow? Now, I've made like just 2 examples. I've made a really simple example here, which is is it an annual sales? You could do this monthly. So part of that setting an expectation, for example, an analyst, is you need to provide up-to-date sales information every month and publish it on Mango, and then that's shared on Slack for everyone else to see. It's always up to date, and that's just part of your ongoing workflow that you do every month. Set a reminder in your calendar, for example. So it's very easy. If you're the manager, you can just come in, and the quality of output, therefore, is the map done? Are the sales figures up to date? Now, in Mango, that's very, very easy to do. You just save a shapefile on Dropbox. We have a Dropbox integration, so you just update the shapefile every week or month or yearly in this case, and then it will just instantly render on the map. If you're the project manager and you have to give a presentation, like most companies do in terms of sales performance, you know that you can just get the link, load it up, share your screen with your management team, and then you can just portray to them the sales. There's a key here, so we've actually got locations. You just click here. It's got the location of where it is, the name, and then we've got some inbuilt sales figures. We've actually got, you can use the query tool to query specific locations about their sales. Here we've got here total sales is 42,000 for that location, for that territory. So in a very simple sense, this is a very simple workflow that you can implement. But how does that look in terms of if you're say a GIS team, or you're an engineering team, and you have very, very complex, very fast-moving projects? You might be thinking, well, that's all good and well for sales, but how does that work in like a complex setup? So I've actually got this more complex example here. Now, this is a shoreline sensitivity map, part of a disaster preparedness measure. For example, this is Texas. So if there's an oil spill, this map is ready to coordinate the response. So as you see here by the key, we've got different shore areas. This green one is exposed tidal flats. So you very quickly, you share this map. There's been a disaster, you share the map, you implement the disaster preparedness measures, and then very quickly you can come in here, load the map, and then, for example, click on here. This black dot corresponds to an access point. So you can communicate with a team out in the field and say, head to Pine Gully Park. That's a designated area for an entry point, and begin your workflows. Look on the map here, we've got the dispersant use pre-approval zone. So they know where they need to go. They can check that on the map. So the worst happens and you need to coordinate a very complex response. Everything is now ready. Mango is the window, the prism through which you see the data that you need to access. You can send a team to certain points. They just load up the map on, if they've got a 4G connection on a tablet, they just come in, or you can screen share with them and just say, go to this point here, mark it on the map. They go there, they know exactly where they need to go. They know the lay of the land. So as you can see from the simple example I gave in terms of sales to this very complex example, having that cloud-based system that is easily accessible by everyone can enable you to work quickly, effectively, while teams are spread apart. And like I mentioned previous, you can use that in terms of internal workflows with tools like Trello, Slack. You can use tools like Mango if you're a GIS team. You can use it if you're a business intelligence team. So I just wanted to give that as an example of how a web-based system works and how fundamental it is to managing teams in a remote setting. So I hope that was interesting and enlightening. Please leave a comment below if you have any questions or if you've got any requests for any content about remote working. Please also subscribe, as we're going to be doing a lot more of these videos over the coming weeks. We're a remote company. We understand this. We're also a remote, we're ideal for remote working as a tool as well. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I will speak to you soon. Thank you.